Hey everybody, it's Greg here with another video. So what we got today is a LG washing machine. Okay, right there. So this is the newer style, and they want the door boot changed. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that, and yeah, we'll just start it up right now. Okay, so there's a certain order I like to do this in. On this demonstration, I'm going to take off the whole front panel, the console, everything, just to get in there closer to show you guys what I'm talking about, because doing it without removing this, you're not going to be able to see really what I'm doing in here, and it's not going to help you guys out at all. So anyway, there is a spring retainer that goes around the outside of this boot that holds it to the frame of the machine. So just got my flat blade screwdriver. I'm going to put in behind that spring and then just work it off like that. That one is the easy one. The inside one is, it's not, I guess, bad to take off, but to put on, that's where the whole problems occur. So I'm going to get this boot off that front lip. In a lot of these boots you can actually fold it in. On this style you can't, because it has a bunch of arms that come out from the boot that won't let you actually fold it in. Okay, so there's a little door down here. I like to take this guy right off. All you got to do is squeeze the little tabs that hold it on there, and this little door comes off. We can set that aside. Now, just need a Phillips bit, and we can take the screw off down inside of here. Once you get that screw off, we can set it aside, maybe put it on the lid for this guy. And there's a hose that needs to get detached. So we unhook that from there and then feed the hose through the back of this, and this whole piece will come off. Once we get that off, there is a screw right here that we have to take off in order to get this front panel off. So put this off, and we can put that with all that other stuff. That's all we need to do down here so far. Actually, what we can also do, you can do this after, you can do it right now, but because we're going to be taking the console off, we're going to be dealing with some of the electrical and stuff like that. I'll ask you guys to unplug your machine, because you don't want to be playing around with the electrical while the thing's still plugged in. Yeah, we might have to do this after, because there's an electrical connection that goes up to the door switch. On this guy, it's pretty hard to get from this point. So I think we'll maybe just wait till we get the panel off. Yeah. That's on there pretty good. So we'll wait until we pull the panel forward a little bit, and then we can unhook it from the side. So we're gonna go up top. Okay, so there's two screws on the back. If you feel back here, you can feel that there's, well, two screws, one on top of each other on each side. You wanna undo the lower one. The upper one can just stay done up. All it does is hold the bracket onto the panel, but we need the screw that goes from the panel to the machine. So that's what we're undoing now. And these are just Phillips screws. So when you come up here to undo these screws, if you haven't done so already, unplug your machine. So this panel slides back. Once you've slid it back, you can lift it up. And we can just put this panel aside. We're not gonna need that for a while. Okay, so I want to take out your dispenser drawer, and there's a little yellow tab here. So you want to push that down and pull out, and then you'll be able to remove the whole soap dispenser. Put that on the floor over here, and then there is 2 screws in here. So we'll undo these guys, get them out of the way. And then on most of these panels, there's one more screw on the right side there that holds the top right side of the panel onto the machine. Yeah, right there. And you'll see it when you're doing yours. So at this point, basically, actually I'm gonna take you guys a little closer here. Okay, so you're looking at the back of the panel. Now, if you pry up on the panel, there's little clips. And you undo those clips, and then this whole front piece will come right off. So with these guys, I undo the electrical right from the board. That way I can take the whole panel and move it out of the way. Okay, so now what we have is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 screws holding this this whole front panel here on. So we'll undo these, and then we'll have to deal with that door switch, which it'll be a lot easier once we can kind of pull this out a little bit. So there's 2 little I guess clip. Yeah, I guess you can call them clips. Anyway, on the bottom of this panel, it holds in the whole bottom of the panel. So when we get all these undone, we can lean this panel forward, and it's not just gonna fall right on us or anything. Leaning it forward, you should be able to get enough room to be able to unplug that door switch. So there's a little tab that holds this panel on. Sometimes you gotta pry up a little bit on it. Or what you can do is push down on the panel just to get it past that little groove there. So pulling it out a little bit. Oh, they've actually given us quite a bit of room. So we can undo this. Watch when you're undoing these connections, because your hand is so close to the side of this panel, and this panel is almost like a razor blade. It's really sharp, and it will cut you. I get constant cuts all over my hands from these panels and dishwasher panels, and every panel on a appliance just seems to be really sharp. Okay, so we've got the boot completely exposed now. So what we want to do is start undoing all these hose clamps. So what I actually use is I have a 90-degree pair of pliers, and I find this really handy to get onto all of these hose clamps that are on here. So there is, these are usually pretty tight, so just be careful when you're trying to pry these off. If they don't want to come off easy and you're trying to pull on them and they don't want to come off, you can stick a little flat blade screwdriver in there and try to leverage it off a little bit, but just be careful you don't end up stabbing the hose or something like that. Then you got more issues to deal with. So this is for the light for inside the drum. So it's got an actual zip tie on there holding it on. So we'll cut that zip tie off. We'll have to remember to put a zip tie back on there when we put the new boot on. But for now, so these just push in and pop out. We'll need to take this off to put onto the new boot. So I think what we'll do is undo this bottom one. There's another hose clamp down here that they managed to turn funny, so I can't get to it. So we might just have to use a straight pair here. Just make sure that you don't pinch the hose or anything like that. So they don't want the actual tangs of this hose clamp sticking out, because when this machine goes into its spin, these little tangs might hit the front panel and make noise, and they're trying to avoid that. So we put these back on. We'll have to put them almost exactly how they came off, and you can see the indents on the actual hose, so it should be fairly easy to put back into place. So there's two clamps down here. So we got that one, and now we'll have to get this guy off there, which it's on there fairly easy. Sometimes you can get water that comes out of this tube or out of this side, so just maybe have a little towel or something nearby so you don't have to deal with that. All right, so now we got the clamp for the inside. So this guy, once again, actually I'm going to, for this one I usually use a pick. I just use a 90-degree pick on this, and you just got to watch that you're not stabbing the boot. Not that it matters because you're changing it, but you don't really want to be stabbing anything anyway. So get that off, and this whole thing comes off. So you'll notice that there's this bracket that runs up both sides of the boot. Now this is where these boots are different than the older style LG boots, because usually the older style doesn't have this. So we'll have to take this bracket off and put it onto the new one before we put it back on here. So maybe I'll do that now. I'll get this clamp out of the way. We do have a tool that we're going to use to put that clamp back on, because it's a very tough one to get back on there without that tool. And the tool, I actually bought the tool actually on Amazon. I think it was like $23 or something like that. It wasn't very expensive at all. For a specialized tool, that's fairly cheap, and I think you can actually use it probably for you know, if you're a technician for any other machine too. I think it would work on Whirlpools, and it would work on, you know, Samsungs. And so we're just going to start swapping things over. think maybe what we'll do, so you gotta find the top. The top usually has a little tab on it that looks like almost like an arrow that points up. So what we'll do, and you want to make sure, you know, I already did this before, but I should probably mention it to you guys. You want to make sure that you have the proper door boot. So when you bring your door boot in, check to see how many holes the old one has, how many holes the new one has, and that can, you know, be a factor as to whether it's the right one or not. So it does have to have the same output holes and things like that. So just something to look out for. So there's actually a plug on this side right there. So we'll have to cut the zip tie off that and then pull that plug out and put it in the new one also, which is fine. These switchovers are fairly easy. The only tough part really of this whole job is putting that inner boot spring on. It can be a real nightmare. So make sure we get this going the right way. Okay, so that's all right. So yeah, that's right. And if you can't seem to get these in, like you're just fighting with it like crazy, what you can do is use some liquid detergent that you use for your washing machine, and it works as a really great lubricant. I'll probably use it to put on the door boot to actually put it back on in the machine, because it goes on so much nicer, and you don't have to fight with it as much. So there's a little tip, little trick of the trade, I guess. So we'll cut this band off here, and we'll pop this guy out. Usually I find that these pop out a lot easier from the inside out. Putting them back in, I would go back in, well, the exact opposite way. So when you put it back in, you just want to look on the inside and make sure that it's actually, sitting kind of where it should be. Once it's back in place, we can put one of these zip ties on there. And it should be about the same size of a zip tie, because there's not a heck of a lot of room in there, so you don't want a big thick one in there, because that probably won't work. Oh jeez. I think this hole might possibly be too big for the size that I have. We'll see here in a sec. Nope, that looks like it'll work. Perfect. So these are tight to hold on to that little tab. Just want to make sure it's not going to back itself off or something, and just cut off the excess there. So the other one we'll have to put that light in, but because it's gonna have to go on after this guy gets mounted back up there, what we'll do is we'll start switching over these, I don't even know what the heck they are. They're some kind of a router for the splashing water to come back into the outer tub. It's pretty easy to switch over, but just kind of an extra little bit of a pain in the butt. And I haven't seen this on any other manufacturer yet, but I'm wondering if this is going to be some kind of a normal deal, because the biggest problem that front loaders have is water sitting in that front door boot. Most of them have a little drain back piece, like that's what that tube is for this guy right here. But even with that, there still seems to be a lot of issues with people getting moldy door boots and stuff like that. So that's kind of one of the downfalls of a front load washing machine. So I'll make sure that we took off, okay, all of our clamps, and can move that boot out of the way. So I'll put this clamp back on here. It's one of the only ones you can actually put on just with your hands easily. Okay, so the bigger portion of the boot goes on first. I'm going to try to put this on without using any detergent or anything. You can use also a little bit of water on there. Sometimes that's enough just to help it in, but make sure this little pointer is pointing up, and it will line up directly with the arrow that's actually on the front of this tub here. So I always start with the top, just so it kind of holds itself on there, and then you just kind of work your boot around the outside of the tub. So I'll keep doing that, and I'll turn you guys back on here in a minute. Okay, so I got that boot back on there, but I had to take this off because it's too well, non-flexible to actually be able to put this boot on with this in the way. So what I think I'm actually gonna do is the door spring, or the boot spring, has to go on behind this black piece here. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the spring on first, and then we'll put this this thing on, and yeah, we'll be good. So don't do up any of your hoses or anything yet, because if you do them up, you won't be able to get your band in. So just done that before and thought, oh, that was silly. Okay, so I usually do this without this tool, and I fight with it like crazy. So I decided to go get this tool, and hopefully it will help. So when you squeeze the handle, it spreads the jaws apart. So on this guy, you want to put that in on one side, and then basically get it in there so you can squeeze it. And what that will do is you can stretch out the spring that's there, so making it easier to put it on. And all you need is that little amount, but that little amount, when you don't have this tool, is a big deal. So I always put this back exactly where I got it off of. So when you take this off, try to note, you know, exactly where. On this guy, it was actually, the spring was facing up. So we'll put it back onto the top. So what I like to do is make sure it gets into the groove on the bottom. And this is kind of a, I don't necessarily need that tool in there quite yet, but there should be. Actually, we can maybe even undo this right now. And we'll just kind of hold those up there, making sure that the band is actually going into the groove that it's supposed to be sitting into. All the way around, because sometimes it can get in behind the groove. And if you didn't notice that it did that, and you do this all up and you get it all back together, and it will come off and leak all over the floor. So you definitely want to make sure that you get that into place. Once you get it into place, these pieces come pretty close together. Okay, so now I can grab that tool and okay, so I've got that clamp on. That was not, maybe a little easier than before I had the tool, but not a heck of a lot. So now trying to put this thing back on. But it's not wanting to go on too nice. Everything about these LG door boots has just always been kind of a nightmare, and everybody in this industry dreads doing them. And this is the newer style, and I was kind of hoping that you know, LG would change it a little bit and maybe make it just a hair easier on us technicians or anybody, you know, at home trying to do this themselves. But they did not, and it's tough. I won't lie about that one at all. It's actually a pretty hard door boot to change. Something like a Whirlpool or whatever, I can probably do one in and out of the house in about 20 minutes. It's always been a thing with LG where if you could get in and out of the house in an hour, you did pretty good, which seems really funny. Okay, sorry, my phone cut off there on me. So I've just been putting all the hoses and stuff back on, making sure everything's in place where it should be, and we're looking good. All right, so now we can throw that front panel back on, and we'll have to hook this guy up as soon as we get it fairly close. Okay, so put the console back on, this front back on, this door boot, just kind of work it into the little recess that it sits in. I just want to throw this front retainer back on, and you want to make sure that the spring is sitting, there's a little cutout down here that you can kind of feel it's a recess spot. You want the spring to sit in there because you don't want it to end up getting in the way of the door closing. So just kind of hold this all together. You can use this tool again. Should make things a little easier. Just spread. Okay, then we're just giving it a test. So you definitely want to run it for a while. Make sure that no water is going. Wasn't a hose or something you forgot to hook up or whatever. But yeah, let it run through a cycle for, I don't know, 20 minutes. Even a full cycle if you want. But everything's good, and that's it. So hope you guys like this video. Or if you try this yourself already and went, I guess. But anyway, thanks for watching, and hit that subscribe button too. Thanks. Bye.